Hello, everyone, again. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you to this event. Thank you so much for joining this webinar. My name is Abisola Olaiya, and I'm your host for today. The topic we are handling today is rape and its psychological underpinnings. And this topic is necessitated as a result of the continuous gender-based violence we continue to experience time and time again in Nigeria. Nigeria is a highly misogynistic society, as patriarchy and sexism are embedded in our cultural practices. We also battle with the culture of silence and victim shaming when it comes to the issue of rape. The COVID-19 pandemic has further complicated the fate of the girl child and women who fall prey to various forms of gender violence in Nigeria. Women and children are often seen as mere objects of sexual gratification. This horror heightened with the rape and murder of 22-year-old LOLA Omozuwa on May 27, 2020, ironically, on Children's Day. Huwa was a 100-level student from University of Benin. She was raped and her head smashed with a fire extinguisher while reading overnight in a church. The horror of her death gripped the deaths of Nigerians across the world. Again, on 31st of May 2020, Mirabel Center launched the hashtag Justice for Uwa as a response to her gruesome death. The hashtag trended across all social media platforms, and I guess that is why a lot of people across the globe have seen and heard the story about the gender-based violence Nigeria has continued to experience. While we were still clamoring for justice for Uwa, different organizations, including LOLA Nigeria, then we got another news of another rape and murder of another young woman. Barakat Bello was raped and murdered in her own home on June 1st, 2020. She was just an 18-year-old student of the Federal College of Animal Production Technology. Again, in the early hours of June 3rd, 2020, a disgusting video of a young man kissing a young girl of about 4 years old passionately surfaced on the internet. Right after that, we witnessed another rape account of a 4-year-old child in Ibadan here. This is 2 young women that are raped and murdered just 3 days apart, and 2 other young girls sexually assaulted by adults meant to serve as their protectors. 2 days ago, the Kano Police Command arrested another man who has allegedly raped over 40 women in Dangora town in Kano. In Ekiti State, 2 men gang raped a 17-year-old girl, hawking sachet water around 7 p.m. on 1st of June, 2020. You think that is enough? Just this morning, another 7-year-old girl was reported raped in Benue State by a man who dragged her into a church and raped her. This is coming weeks after Huwa's rape case became public, and yet the men that perpetrated that are yet to be identified. According to the Mirabel Center is Nigeria's first sexual assault referral center. 1 woman is raped every 6 minutes in Nigeria every day. Every 6 minutes, every single day in Nigeria. The worst case is that only a small percentage of these rape survivors actually come forward to report. Huwa was blamed for reading in her church when school was closed. Barakat, who did everything right according to Nigeria's moral code. She's a Muslimah, she covers up and everything. Yet she was raped and murdered in her own home. Where then are we safe? What about the children assaulted? Can victims ever get justice? I'll leave you to ponder on this while I invite the main speaker for today. Temitope Afegbah is a trained clinical psychologist from the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital. She had her first and second degree in psychology from University of Lagos. She's presently a lecturer of psychology at Yaba College of Technology, and she's also a member of the British Psychological Society. Temitope will help us do justice through to tell us the psychology behind rape. Please leave your comments and questions in the chat box while she goes on with the presentation. Temitope, you have the floor, you can go ahead.
Thank you very much. Hi everyone. Thank you, Bisola, for the nice introduction. Now, I may be smiling, but it's a topic that we are not supposed to smile about. But then again, you want to say in the last 1 month, there's been one too many cases of rape incidences being reported in Nigeria. From like when she did her intro, the name she has told you and how the incidences occur, you know that it's really a very sad one. But that's not our domain. What we are looking at today, because of the topic, rape and its psychological underpinnings, we want to try and understand the psychology behind rape. What would make somebody want to commit that very evil act? I would like to call it evil act. So just look through the slides. Rape and its psychological underpinnings. In discussing this topic, we'll be looking at the following. We'll look at the origin, etymology, we'll look at the definition, we'll look at classification, look at the types of rape, we'll look at the psychology of rape. Why do men rape? Although I should have put why do people rape there, because it's not only men that rape, even though the statistics is higher for men. So we'll look at the effect of rape on the victim. Then briefly, we'll look at something termed rape trauma syndrome. We'll look at the current world happenings specific to Nigeria. And then we'll look at the way forward, possible solutions. And then we'll also look at how to cope as a victim. So just follow me along. Now, the word rape originates from the Latin word, which literally means to snatch, to grab, to carry off. You know, but since the 14th century, the term has come to mean to seize or to take away by force, which is what we are sticking to, because that's what it means now. When you hear the word rape, it means you're seizing something, you're taking away something from someone by force. Now, in ancient Roman law, the carrying off of a woman by force, with or without intercourse, you know, they will even consider it rape. Now, we'll look at the definition. Rape is defined as the use of coercion, force, or threats or coercion in order to achieve penile vaginal penetration with a woman without her consent, or even with a minor with the consent of the minor. Even if it's with the consent of a minor, it is still regarded as rape because the person is a minor. Okay, so classification. Instances of rape are classified according to various number of categories. You have date rape, you have gang rape, marital rape, you know, incestuous rape, child sexual abuse, prison rape, acquaintance rape, war rape, and statutory rape. It's not limited to that, though. Now, it is important to note that the lack of consent is key to the definition of rape. You know, when you're looking at rape, it is the lack of consent is what is key. You know, and consent is an affirmative, informed approval, which indicates a freely given agreement. You know, the person has to agree to want to carry out the sexual activity. If the consent is not given, it is rape, regardless of the circumstance. You could say, oh, we're in a loving relationship. Oh, but she's my wife. Okay, but she came to my house. You know, down here in Africa, in Nigeria, if you report a rape, people tell you, why did you go to his house? What were you looking for? And things like that. But even if you're in a person's house, even if you are in a committed relationship with someone, as long as your consent was not sought, your approval was not given, and the person forcefully had any kind of sexual activity with you, we could term that as rape. So the lack of consent is crucial to, is important to understanding rape. Now, types of rape. There's something known as anger rape or corrective rape. Now, in this type of rape, the perpetrator, you know, it seeks to humiliate or debase the victim. Sorry, there's a typo there. I thought I corrected it. It seeks to humiliate or debase the victim. And in this type of rape, there's usually more physical force in order to, you know, to overcome the victim and achieve penetration, because he's angry. The person is because we are in a patriarchal, like she said in her introduction, everything is about the man, and then the man feels that, yes, I have the right to whatever I want. I could get it, even if it's by force. And then in doing this, it's trying to maybe, okay, let me give an example of that. You see a girl, maybe to you, she's dressed scandalously, you know, as a guy. And then you're like, oh, look at this girl. Okay, I think you are getting the wrong body cues from her. You think maybe because she's dressed in a certain type of way, she's asking for something. And then you corner, you know, let me use you corner her to one side, maybe you're in a club or something, and she's insisting and telling you no. And for a guy, for the average Nigerian guy, he's thinking, but this girl is looking for it, she's asking for it. That is why she will dress like this. So what is she talking about? And then you're angry, the guy gets angry, and then he uses a lot of force, and then before you know it, he has his way, you know, and then he does it in a way to humiliate her, kind of. So that is the anger rape. Then you have the power rape. Now, in this type of rape, the perpetrator is trying to compensate for some underlying feelings of some inadequacies or issues with control or strength or mastery. Some people that feel that they cannot get a woman or get a girl to agree to want to have anything to do with them except they use force. Now, for such a person, the person has some underlying issues of insecurities, you know, and so he feels the way to cover it up is to pounce on a woman, so to speak. So that is that's power rape. Then the third one I put here was the sadistic rape. Now, the perpetrator in this type of rape, he glamorizes he or she, because, well, it's not only a man that rapes, but it's just that because the statistics for men raping is higher. So if you hear me saying it's not that it's only the men that rape, but it's more on that side. Now, in this type, the perpetrator glamorizes aggression and violence, you know, and the person tends to attach sexual gratification with violence or infliction of pain. You will know that the person has, for this one too, the person has some deep-seated underlying issues, you know, and insecurities, and the person feels that it is only when you are aggressive, it is by force, you know, and all this type of rape can take place in any of the categories earlier mentioned. It can take place in the dates, gang rape, and most times in sadistic rape, unfortunately, because it is highly violent, the victims may not even survive the attack. So, for example, the one for Uwa and the other lady, we could say is a type of sadistic rape because a lot of violence was used, and then unfortunately, Uwa did not survive the attack. So, having said that, we want to look at why do men rape? Although I should have said why do people rape, because it's not just men, but like I keep saying, because the statistics is higher for men as being perpetrators of rape than for women. So that is why I put it that way. So in looking at this, we would like to understand or have an insight into the reason why or what could induce a man to rape. Now, the following mentalities are some of the why that makes a man rape. Number one, you have the disadvantaged men. Okay, for this, let me just give a little explanation. What this means is that some men feel that they are at a disadvantage. They see a lady, they feel, okay, I cannot have this lady or this girl by myself the way I am. You know, she would not look at me twice. She wouldn't even listen to me. So, and then they keep watching her and they try to look for avenues where they can get to seize or take away by force. So that's disadvantaged men. Men who think they are disadvantaged, or disadvantaged women, because now it's not just men. Then you have opportunistic rapists. Now, those type of rapists, they seize opportunities. Like for instance, you're a young girl going to school, you have male friends. Okay, you get very close to a few of them, maybe particularly close to one, even though you are not in any kind of relationship, right? you go visit him with that feeling of trust. Okay, you could be in a platonic relationship, you're just friends. But the guy is probably getting the wrong body cues from you. He's interpreting your care and attention the wrong way and thinking that you want something more than what you are giving. And then say, for example, you go to his house, you go visit him or something, and then he seizes the opportunity, quote and unquote, and decides to have his way with you and rape. That is opportunistic raping. Now, there's another one, an exaggerated sense of masculinity. That is very obvious in our society, in the African society, in Nigeria. The men feel that, yes, they are men. Men can do anything. The men are here and the women are down here. So what is wrong with you? Why would you say no to me? I'm your husband. I want to have it with you today, and you are my wife. You have to listen to me. Anything. So that is an exaggerated sense of masculinity. You know, we live in a patriarchy society. You know, the men are, even right from when they are little boys, you know, the boy will do something, they'll be like, oh, leave him. Oh, he's the man of the house. Oh, the girls are going to sweep, they are going to wash plates. Oh, leave him alone. He's the man, he's the king, you know. That exaggerated sense of masculinity, you know, after some time, as the person begins to grow, then he feels that he can have what he wants with the woman at any given time. He has no regard to or for when she says no, or okay, I'm not in the mood, or I don't feel like having this with you. For him, it's like, what do you mean? I'm the man. I can do whatever I want. So that's that. Then the other one is having a low opinion of women. It is kind of interrelated. It is related, you know. Women are, sadly to say, objectified. You know, women are viewed as properties. You know, I can do with her as I please. So whatever, my wish, whatever I want is what should take precedence. Then the other one is having sexually aggressive friends. Now that is socialization, you know, where somebody usually stays, the kind of people he hangs out with, you know, they are usually sexually aggressive. So before you know it, the person begins to internalize all those things, and then he begins to perpetrate. If he has friends that are sexually aggressive, he sees nothing wrong with being sexually aggressive towards a woman or towards a lady. You know, it's seen as normal. What is it? Yeah, and all of that. So that is then another very obvious reason why being a member of a criminal gang. You know, being a member of a criminal gang comes with a lot of negative intricacies, and then, you know, in fact, that is a topic on its own, you know, but it's also a predisposing factor or a reason why people want to rape. Then another very important one is history of sexual abuse in childhood, which is key. For some men, growing up, they were also sexually molested. And then because of that, they have come to see it as a normal way. So when they are in a relationship, they can do nothing but molest their partners. They see it as a normal way of growing, or it has become a normal behavior because of their childhood experience. For some, it could be that it's a way of letting out the pain and the anger. So anytime they have the opportunity to be alone with a woman, they want to, you know, just have their way with her forcefully, you know. Then partner rapists, those ones, they are, you know, she's my partner, he or she is my partner. I can do whatever I want. We are in a relationship. It's not rape. You know, they will tell you it's not rape. She's my fiance. She's my wife. She's my girlfriend. I can do whatever I want. Then also, having been raised in a strongly patriarchy family, you know, you could see that most of these reasons why they are varied, they are all interrelated, and they can all go back to the very beginning, from the way the child was socialized, from the environmental factor, from family factor, society factor, that makes it okay for a human being to think that he can forcibly take something from another person without remorse, without, the thought of, you want this thing, I don't want it. That should be okay. But for a lot of people, it is not. I want this thing now. I don't care whether you want it or not. I want it now and I'm going to get it. If you want to resist, then they'll take it by force. And everything can be traced to childhood experiences, to the manner of bringing up the child, to our society norms and values, our culture, the way it is, the way women are objectified, the way women are viewed as properties, the way the man has no regard for the feelings of a woman. It's like, she's a woman, what does she know? She doesn't know anything. I want is just to sit down there, clean the house, give me food to eat, and bear children. What emotions is she talking about? What feelings is she talking about? She can't, those are the things that are built up, or we are built up in our boys, that when they grow up to be men, they seem to have no regard for the feelings of a woman, be it their partner, be it just anybody walking down the street, and once they feel, oh yes, I need to be, this woman has sexually aroused me, I have to have my way with her. So let's move on to the next slide. Now, risk factors for committing rape. Number one, alcohol and drug consumption. Yes, that's a risk factor. Because most of the time, when these substances and your system, they mess up your system, and then you end up doing the things that you ordinarily would not do if you were not under the influence. But then again, the alcohol and the drug only mess up your system if you have an inclination towards such things. Because it's not everybody who rapes that was under the influence of alcohol. And it's not everybody who was under the influence of alcohol who would rape somebody. But yes, it triggers, is a factor, but then again, it triggers only when the individual has an inclination towards such. Then the second thing, the individual psychological factor, yes, which is the key, because it is your way of mentally assessing whatever situation that comes upon you as an individual that determines the actions you will take. I think even for the way forward, this is what we are supposed to look at if we want lasting change, because we need to now start working on the psyche of our boys as they're growing up, to value women. Women are equal. Women are not things to be objectified. Women are not things that you can use and discard and treat anyhow. Even yourself, you have a kind of respect for yourself and your body. There's a way you treat yourself. So it is when you treat yourself well that you will then extend it to another person. So individual psychological factor. Then another thing is the pair and family factor. I've talked about that. The kind of the kind of pair group. Somebody having very highly sexually aggressive friends. It could be a risk factor. Family factor. The family thinks that okay, he's a man, he's a boy, he can do anything, he's a king, he's whatever, he can get away with anything, and so he feels he can take whatever he wants at whenever he wants it. So societal factor, yes, our society, like Abisola was saying in our introduction, we live in a very male-dominated society, and so gender violence, most times directed towards women, is high. Is really high, and then we can't talk about it. Sometimes it's shameful for a family to even see a young girl is raped. She wants to seek redress or she wants to report. You see her family members telling her, shush, don't say anything. Nobody is supposed to know you have been raped. It's a disgrace. Our family is going to be this, blah, 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 blah. All those things. And then she keeps it in. So the perpetrator, sometimes it is lifelong, Some people have been raped from when they were children till whenever it is they're able to leave that environment. And you'll be shocked to know that the sexual misconduct is being carried out by even those who are members of their family. So it's a very difficult world we live in when we want to really look at it. So we've looked at that. So the next slide is, we'll just look at the effects of rape on the victims. There are both physical trauma and deep psychological trauma. Physical trauma include visible bruising or bleeding or both. Those things you can see, UTIs, urinary tract infections, STDs, unwanted pregnancy, HIV, and all of that. Those you can see. You can see it. Now, it is important to note that forced sexual activity can be committed over a period of time with little to no physical injury. So sometimes when you want to report your case to the police or to the authorities, they will ask you for proof. And sometimes there might actually be no physical proof, so to speak. But this case has been ongoing or has just happened. There can be situations where there is no physical injury, but that does not take away the fact that the act was committed or that it was a rape. So it is important to note that. Now, psychological effects, yes, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, flashback memories, personality problems, sometimes suicide attempts, intentional harm, the victim, sleeplessness, eating disorder, anger, guilt, hypoactive sexual desire disorder. Yes, that one. Because of the trauma of the experience, for some people, psychologically affect them that it now reduces their sexual drive, even when they're in a marriage, even when they're in a loving relationship. It really affects that area of their life, and then it is completely reduced, It's a big problem. Then there is rape trauma syndrome, that's RTS. And it is described as a cluster of emotional and behavioral responses to the extreme stress experienced by the victim during rape. Okay, so sometimes the response is because of the fear of death that the victim experiences sometimes during this evil incidents. The person comes up with a cluster of syndromes. Syndromes is a cluster of symptoms, both emotional and behavioral. Now, it can occur in two phases. There's the acute initial phase that it could last for a few days to a few weeks. Then the second phase is the reorganization phase. This lasts anywhere from several weeks to several months or even years after the rape. Is a real big problem. The person has to, most times, always see a trained, a specialist to have to deal with it and then learn to cope and then learn how to begin to live a normal life. It affects the person's entire well-being, even though there might be no physical harm. So the next slide, current world happenings. I didn't even know Abisola was going to give that intro, but since she did, good. She already gave an intro of, specific to Nigeria. In the space of 1 month, we've seen a spur of so much. You were talking about the Uwa case. 2 days later, there's another one. A day later, there's yet another one. And then just yesterday or 2 days ago, a man was arrested in Kano for having raped 40 women. I can't just begin to imagine. And according to the statistics I was given earlier, Mirabel Center, they say that women are raped, like how many women every day or how many times? It's mind-boggling, So in the space of about a month, a lot of rape cases have come up. And then, you know, the situation, some people might say, okay, is it because of the COVID-19 pandemic? Because I was watching a TV program the other day, and somebody was saying because of the COVID-19 pandemic, so because people are at home and then that energy, they're unable to dissipate it, and so that's why we're having a spike in the incidents that's been recorded. Or some other people are saying, no, it has always been like this, but maybe because we are now in the information age, where everything is brought to light through the power of social media. So the buzz, everybody's talking about it, everybody, but this is something, my personal opinion, this is something that happens every day. Every day. Countless people, some people can't even bring themselves to talk about it. So it's sad, but whatever the case, we can all agree that it is one case too many and something has to be done. We need to understand that we need to, first of all, understand the behavior. We need to understand why, so that we can control and possibly change the behavior. Now, in preferring solutions to this, we want to start, for me, we need to start to nip it at the bud, you know, from bringing up our children. And then we need to begin to have a change in our societal values, in our customs. We need to begin to see women as equals and not see them as she's lower than me, the man is here, the woman is down here, you know, I can do whatever I like. And in fact, some people even treat their animal pets better than they treat their wives or their girlfriends. And, you know, we need to begin to have a reorientation. I don't know if that's what the word is called. But for each person in their homes, the way we bring up our boys, even our girls, a simple no means no and nothing else. Somebody says no, it is no. Take it as that. You can't get what you want every time you want it. And you mustn't take something by force if it doesn't belong to you. So, having said that, I want to look at coping skills, how to cope as a victim. Sorry, please, let me just go through my slide. How to cope as a victim. Oh, I set up the wrong slide, but I could just, sorry about that. I had it, let me look for it. Oh, okay, let me read it. I would send this thing to Bisola, so maybe she can disseminate it later. But I thought I had it here. I'm sorry about that. Now, coping skills, you know, how to cope for a rape victim. You know, there are some steps that you can take to help you cope with it. I highlighted about 6 steps. So the first one is, the first thing, most important thing is open up. Open up about what has happened to you. Can anybody see me? Oh, okay. So open up about what has happened to you. You know, even though it is extremely difficult to admit that one has been raped or sexually assaulted, it is helpful to talk about it, because staying silent, you deny yourself of help. And then when you stay silent, you reinforce your victimhood. You know, so there are some ways that could help you to open up. Number 1 is you reach out to somebody you can trust. Reach out to someone you can trust. Preferably somebody who will be supportive, or a therapist, or somebody who has the knowledge to help you walk through. Or you, first and foremost, you reach out to somebody you can trust within your immediate environment. Number 2 is you consider joining a support group. Okay, so in Nigeria, for example, that is far and in between. I don't know if we have too many support groups, but there are a few organizations, NGOs that provide support. One of such is the Mirabel Center. They provide support for rape victims. And so you want to reach out and join such support groups. Now, another thing that could help you is you challenge your sense of helplessness and isolation. Challenge your sense of helplessness and isolation. Now, even though we all agree that rape is a very traumatic experience, which leaves you feeling powerless and vulnerable, it is important that you constantly remind yourself that you have the strength and you can go through the tough times. It's going to be difficult to do, but it's one thing that would help you. So those are the 3 tips in the first step that I could think of. Now, the second step is learn to cope with the feelings of guilt and shame. Now, we know that even if you can intellectually come to terms with the fact that you are not to blame for the incidents, you can intellectually say, okay, yeah, it is not your fault. You will still find yourself struggling with the feelings of shame and the feelings of guilt, right? You still find yourself once in a while thinking, oh my goodness, why did this have to happen to me? Why, but you have to come to terms with the truth of the incident. It has happened. It is not your fault. It'd be easier for you to accept it if you are able to do these 3 things. Number 1, you stop blaming yourself. Stop blaming yourself, thinking about why didn't you stop the assault from happening? Can you hear me? Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So in helping you to cope with the feelings of shame and guilt, one of the things you can do is you have to stop blaming yourself, thinking about why didn't you stop the assault from happening? Another thing, you have to stop blaming yourself about why did you trust somebody you shouldn't have. Another thing, you have to stop blaming yourself about the circumstance or whatever circumstances, because the one who is responsible for the assault is the perpetrator, not you. You have to stop blaming yourself. Oh, what if? Oh, was it because I did this? What if I had done this? What if? No matter what you had done or what you did, nobody has the right to take away from you by force. So, because if you want to look at 2 cases, Uwa case and the Barakat case, what exactly did they do wrong? The Uwa girl, some people say, why did she go and read in the church, blah, blah, blah. Okay, Barakat was in her house. She was at home. Everything was supposedly normal, and she was still raped. So you have to stop blaming yourself about the circumstances. So if you're able to, work with those tips, you will learn to cope with the feelings of shame and guilt. Step 3, now you have to prepare for flashbacks and upsetting memories. Now, these are flashbacks and upsetting memories are especially common in the first few months following the incidents. So, you would always have flashbacks and, the memories are very upsetting. But if you remain stuck in that realm, you could develop PTSD in the long run. That's post-traumatic stress disorder. And we don't want that to happen. In order to help you cope with this, you could try practice the following. I wrote down 5 things. Number 1, try to anticipate and prepare for the triggers. 2, you pay attention to your body's danger signals. 3, immediately your body is giving you danger signals, you take immediate steps to relax or self-soothe. Maybe take deep breaths or do something that could just calm you down. Number 4, you accept and reassure yourself that this is just a flashback, not a reality. You accept that this one is just a flashback, not a reality. It's not happening again. My head is just replaying it. Then number 5, you ground yourself in the present. Things you can do to ground yourself in the present, as simple as maybe give yourself a pinch, try tapping yourself, like when the flashbacks are coming, you ground yourself in the present. You could name the place where you are, or the current dates, or give yourself a tap, like snap out of it, or come to the present. You could do that. Now that's to help you with the flashbacks and upsetting memories. Step 4 is reconnect to your body and feelings. Now, due to the traumatic nature of what you have just experienced, your nervous system is in a very hypersensitive state. So you may feel numb and you can physically shut down, because of what has just happened. Now, it's a very difficult step, because your body, you feel as if your body is no longer yours. Sometimes you can even feel as if your body is your enemy. You feel contaminated. You feel violated in a certain sort of way, but you need to gradually reconnect back to your body. Now, to help you achieve this, you might want to do the following. One of the things you might want to do that I wrote down is mindfulness. Mindfulness meditation. You might want to do, for some people, rhythmic movements, dancing, rhythmic movements might just help you, reconnect back to your body. Some people, yoga could help. So for some people, you could get a massage, and the likes to help you reconnect back to your body. Now, the fifth step is stay connected. Stay connected, because this is something that has happened to you. You've experienced all of the terrible things. It is important that you stay connected so that you can seek and receive help, and you can also gradually work yourself out of it. How to stay connected. You participate in social activities, you make new friends, you reconnect with old friends. Then the number 6 step is nurture yourself. Nurture yourself. You will nurture yourself by taking time to rest and restore your body's balance. Another thing you can do is be very, be smart about your media consumption. You wouldn't want to, after something has happened to you, now, there's so many stuff on social media, the internet, and even the mass media, old media. You don't want to consume too much of negative media so it doesn't keep replaying in your head. So be very smart about media consumption. Take care of yourself physically. Eat well, exercise, just feel good. Avoid harmful substances, alcohol, drugs. So I feel that these are the 6 basic steps that could help a victim cope initially after the ugly incident. So, Bisola, I would want to stop here. I hope I did not take too much of our time, and I hope everybody can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you so much.
I would like to stop here and then wait for questions and comments. And so over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. for that wonderful session. Very, very enlightening. These are sessions that is very rare for us to have something like this, especially here in Nigeria, where we experience a culture of silence. We don't talk about these things. So you really have people having this sort of conversation. Thank you so much for that session. We were supposed to have another speaker today, but unfortunately, because of the time zone, she's not going to be present today. But I'm just going to go over to the comment box to check the questions they have. However, Odun was able to share some of the policies that we have in Nigeria on rape with me. So I'm just going to tell you guys briefly some of the policies that we have presently in Nigeria when it comes to gender-based violence. Well, on paper, I would say on paper, in Nigeria, we have the Criminal Code Act, which states that, you know, when you rape any person or when you have sexual intercourse with a woman or girl without her consent, or you incorrectly obtain consent by raping through force, intimidation, for fraudulent activities, or when you even impersonate a married woman, for example, a married woman's husband, for example, in order to have sex, that you were meant to be, you know, imprisoned. That is on paper. Again, we also have the penal code in Nigeria, and under this section, it states that rape is when a man has sexual intercourse with a woman against her will, without her consent or with incorrectly obtaining consent. So consent can be incorrectly obtained, according to this section, by putting her in fear of death or hurt, by a person impersonating a married woman's husband as well. So under this code, sex with a girl under 14 years of age or who is of unsound mind is rape, irrespective of whether there is consent or not. That is according to our policy. Again, we also have the criminal laws of Lagos. And under this, you know, policy, it states that rape is when a man has sexual intercourse with a woman or girl without her consent. And if it's done by force again, it is also rape. Just like the penal code and the criminal code, this states that sexual intercourse by a man with his wife cannot be unlawful. So that brings us to marital rape, for instance. So our policy states that there's nothing like marital rape. So if you are married to a man and your husband rapes you or your wife rapes you, you can't call it rape. It's just sexual intercourse. That is our policy. And also, we also have another policy, which is the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, which defines rape as when a person intentionally penetrates the vagina, anus or mouth of another person with any other part of his body, or with consent or without, you know, absolutely talking to that person about it. It could be by force, it could be by intimidation, by threat, it could be by, you know, fraudulent activities as well, and impersonation. Again, this seems like a progressive, you know, policy as against the other ones I've mentioned. But sadly, it is only, you know, the federal capital, Abuja, that, you know, observe this particular policy. We have 36 states in Nigeria. So out of those 36 states, only Abuja observe the VAPA Act. Now, we also have the Child Rights Act in Nigeria. And, you know, this was also revamped as well. And it states that, you know, you can't have sex with a child, and anyone that has a sexual intercourse with a child is liable to imprisonment for life upon conviction. Again, due to the culture of silence, you rarely find, you know, these young people or family members coming forward to even talk about it. And even when they summon the courage to come forward, do they even get justice? You know, so these are some of the policies that we presently have in Nigeria. And, you know, it is also why we're having this sort of conversation, because one good thing that happened with Uwa's case and then, you know, the whole advocacy concerning the rape issue is that just yesterday, the Governors Forum was able to, you know, declare a state of emergency for gender-based violence in Nigeria. This is coming at a time, you know, when, you know, there's a lot of clamor on gender-based violence. This is coming at a time where many of the northern states especially have not, you know, signed the child or are not observing the child rights law in Nigeria. So conversations like this cannot be overemphasized, you know, really. But quickly, I'll go over to the comment section so that we'll start taking, you know, questions. The very first one that I have here is, how do you challenge your sense of helplessness? Someone, you know, yeah.
Okay. Last question for me.
Yes, please.
Bisola?
Yes, please.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yes, I like I said, to challenge your sense of helplessness is to constantly stop blaming yourself. I know, because it is a very traumatic experience, and then it leaves you feeling very powerless and vulnerable because the person has taken from you so much that you hold on to, and the person even took it without your consent, most times even forcibly. So you're feeling helpless, you're feeling isolated, you're feeling like there's nothing you can do about it. So I mentioned some of the tips you can do. One of the first tips I said was to stop blaming yourself. Stop blaming yourself, thinking about why didn't you stop the assault from happening? Stop playing that in your head. Number two, stop blaming yourself, thinking about, oh, why did I trust this person I wasn't supposed to trust? Or why did I go to his house? Or what? Stop blaming yourself. Stop blaming yourself about the circumstances, because you are not the one responsible for the act. It is the perpetrator. The person who is to blame is the perpetrator, the rapist. So you need to stop blaming yourself. I know it's going to be difficult, but it's something you have to do so that you challenge that sense of helplessness and isolation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. I can see Monica, you have your hand up. Let me quickly, you can unmute yourself, Monica, so that you can ask your question.
Okay. Hi, how are you? No, I just wanted to... ¿Me apagas un minuto? Sorry about that. That is a lot of noise here in my house. Is that I wanted to share, like in Colombia, one of the sexual assault and the rape, it's been like an arm, because you know that we have guerrillas, and that's one of the main things that happened here. And I wanted to share that we here in South America too have a lot of impunity of the sexual crimes. We still have a very male strong society. I'm sure it's less than what I heard, but still most are girls, and a lot of the perpetrators are inside the families here in Colombia too. And with the violent groups that we have fighting for power, they always use women as a weapon. Like you want the enemy, so you take the women of the enemy, mothers, sisters, and just rape them, just to hurt, to humiliate your enemy. That's one very big thing here. The other one is that this group exploit the girls, or they slave them as sexual, like sexual instrument for their men. The people are in groups, so they have women too for that. And here we have a lot of like forced abortions or forced and not wanted child birth. So it's very interesting. I really thank you. But here is true. We don't that like yesterday at the newspaper. It was exactly happened that the girl in Bogota was killed yesterday. She was walking to work, and someone in a little store took her and raped her and killed her. But it's not as you don't hear that much. It's like and it's a lot of impunity. People don't like, it's like you said. So I just wanted to share that here in Colombia, we have a problem. I don't know if it's as strong as it is in Africa. I think even though we still have this problem, I don't think it's as strong. And one of my friends is here. If you want to know a little bit more, she will be able to give like what kind of laws we have here. We're trying to have gender equality and a lot of things, how the judges and the police have to approach, because one of the problems here is sometimes if you want to go to the police and they don't believe you. Wow. I don't know if that things happen over there, and then you go to the justice system and it doesn't work because they're not used to that, or because the way they think, they think, oh no. So that happens here, but there's a lot of laws, in our system, supposedly in the paper too, and there are a lot of laws that are supposed, and it's a human, very big crime here. Like And because we went into this peace agreement with FARC, that is a very strong guerrillas, like a violent group, and a lot of girls come out telling their stories about how they suffer when they were how do you say that, recruited by the members of these groups. And then they rape them, you know, sexual assault, and then the slavery, the sexual slavery to, you know, fleece the men in the groups. So here, most of the rapes are girls, usually young girls. Most of the and 80% it stays in impunity. So there's no punishment for the perpetrators.
Wow.
And they're even in Congress here in Colombia, you know, because with this peace agreement, a lot of these men that are supposed to be accused with not one, but many women that they are in our Congress, you know, because of the peace agreement, they were allowed to. So that's what is happening here in Colombia. It's, you know, I'm not an expert. I'm just, you know, giving you a little information for you there to know that this happens not only in Nigeria, it happens all over the place, you know, and we just, I think, time and education is
Sorry.
to take us, sorry about that.
Yes,
time and education is what is going to take us, you know, and we have to take care of ourselves. That's something I always, you know, like, as you said, you always have to be aware, you know, where are you? It's like a part of taking care of your own property and your body. But I know sometimes there's places where even your husband, the people you trust the most here too, and right now with the COVID, we have a lot of intrafamiliar, I don't know how to say that in English, like inside family violence. It's going up a lot here in Colombia too. It's a huge problem. So it's usually a lot of the problems here too, it's inside the same family, brothers, you know, people very close that you trust, the ones that hurt you the most sometimes. And that's very hurtful, you know, because you lost trust in the people you love the most. It's hard. So those things happen to you. And so very helpful. I really thanks. And I'm happy to hear what's going on in Africa. You know, sometimes we don't have that chance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica. Thank you so much for that. I'll quickly take a couple of questions before calling on Maria. So there's another question here. Okay, there's a comment from Joyce. She says that to hard on partner rape, there is need to emphasize to young women that sex without consent is equal to rape, be it with your boyfriend, husband, fiance, etc. So she's just reiterating that consent is very important, whether you are in a relationship or not. Also, we also have someone, okay, Linda, she has a question here. She said, how can you best educate a child who has been raped? That's for you, Tope. Tope, can you hear me?
Okay, no, please.
Okay,
how can you best educate?
Yes, how can you best educate a child who has been raped? You know, a child, yes. Mostly when the child confides in you and can't share the experience with our parents, afraid of what the parents will do. So how can you help that child?
Yeah, well, because you know that one, because it's a minor, you know, it's a bit tricky, but because the child has confided in you as an adult, one of the first things you can do first, be a source of reassurance to that child. First things first. After which you then, because you're not an expert in that field, you could then hand the child over to support groups. Like I said earlier, we don't have too many of them in Nigeria, but the one that keeps coming to my head every time is Mirabel Center, because their focus is on rape, you know, rape victims and how to help them. So you could do that. But then again, you will still need to get the parent involved because it is a minor. You have to find a way to get the parents involved. Even if it means you writing to, like in Lagos State, you know, this Ministry of Women's Affairs, they have a department where you could report violence against a child or against anybody. So you might want to report that to the state government. So the state government will now sort of subpoena the parents. So they would definitely have to come along, and then the process goes on. But first and foremost, be a source of reassurance for that child, and then carry it up from there. Thank you.
Okay. There's another question again from Joyce. It says, do public hospitals in Nigeria offer post-rape psychological help services? And if yes, how accessible are they for rape survivors? Okay, I think, do you want to answer that question, or you want me to talk about it?
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay,
go
so
ahead.
Public hospitals in Nigeria, do they offer post-rape psychological help? Well, Tope happens to work, she trained at Lagos State University Teaching Hospital, which they have the trauma center. So, but the thing is that because there are just very few, we don't have a lot of hospitals, offering these services. So that is why we are always mentioning Mirabel Center, organizations like Mirabel Center. So, and it is important again for us as a people to sort of, create other avenues where rape victims will be able to have, all this sort of information. Aside from Mirabel Center, there is also Stand for Rape Initiative. There are about 5 organizations that are really active in Nigeria. There's also WARIF as well. I'm going to just list them in the chat box later, so that if you're in Nigeria and you or anyone is experiencing anything, you can, just put a call through to this number. So Joyce, we don't really have, hospitals in Nigeria offering post-rape psychological help. I mean, we even have a whole issue, mental health awareness and all of that in Nigeria. So you literally have to take care of yourself when it comes to that. There's also another question. I think I put that down. Yes, there's a question I would personally like to ask. That is, sharing a rape story really necessary? Because, I would say that I've been a rape victim as well. And it took me everything, like when you were going through the slides and everything, every single thing that you went through on those slides, I went through every single thing on those, that you shared. When it comes to the depression, blaming yourself, the post-traumatic stress disorder, the flashbacks, even till date, literally each time I hear of a rape story, like for the first 24 hours or 48 hours or thereabouts, I'm always like, all shaking up. And it's like I'm being, transferred back to, what I've experienced in the past. So, but, when you have conversations like this, or you talk about, oh, this is so horrible and all of that, when you are trying to tell your story, you have people, going about, why are you even talking about it? Why is it such a big deal? So being a psychologist, I would just like you to, educate us and just tell us, is it really important to share your story?
Okay. Thank you, Abisola. It is very important, because if you were listening when I said how to cope as a victim or coping for a rape victim, one of the first steps is you open up about what has happened to you. It is very, very important, because if you do not open up about what has happened to you, you reinforce your victimhood. You will continue to reinforce your victimhood. And sometimes even in therapy, you have there's some form of therapy where you're being asked to relive the experience over and over again. You know why? Because the more you relive the experience, the less the experience has a hold on you. And then gradually you're able to pull out of it. But when you keep it all bottled up, you are reinforcing your victimhood. You're still staying in that space of the fear, the blame, all the negative thing that comes with it. Remember, there's an adage that says the problems shared is a problem solved. How does it go? Yeah. That's where it starts from. It is very important to open up and share your story, because when you open up, you are able to seek help. Help will come to you, and then you're able to gradually leave that state of victimhood, So I think it's important that you share your story. But most importantly, share your story to one, somebody you can trust, and somebody who has the capacity to help you. You know, it's not just fun talking about it. Of course, it's not fun talking about a rape experience, but you want to talk about it in a very purposeful and direct manner where you can seek help and get help.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. I have one more question. Okay, I missed a question from Lily. Okay, it says what makes women rape? You know, we've been talking about rape, especially from the perspective of the man raping the woman. So what makes a woman rape?
Well, I think it's more or less the same thing. Because we are human beings, right? Men or women. We can just remove some of the things that are more geared towards men. But for women, it's more or less the same thing. You know, you can, most of the time, what happens for women, most of the time, women would assault a younger child, like a younger male. Yes. So there is that sense of I'm higher than him. I can take advantage of him. Number one. Number two, a disadvantaged woman in the sense of maybe she feels that without raping you, she cannot get what she wants. She would also want to put you in a situation where you have to be raped. But for the women, because of the sheer physical difference, it happens more like older woman, younger man, as against that for the men, where it is a younger woman, older man, or a man who is even a pair doing it. You know, because for the man is somewhat physically stronger than the woman. So that already puts the woman at a disadvantage, even if she wants to carry out the act on a man that is a pair. So most times, boys are molested by older women. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. There is also a question from Monica. It says, how are the statistics in Nigeria? Is there high impunity? Yes, I would like to answer that question. Yes, there is high impunity. Yes, the statistics, I mentioned earlier that according to Mirabel Center, one woman is raped every 6 minutes in Nigeria, every day. So every 6 minutes in Nigeria, you have one woman being raped. And, you know, as much as we have all these policies on paper, the last time I went to Mirabel Center with LOLA Lagos members chapter, they put us through the process. So when you go to Mirabel Center, for instance, to tell them that you are raped, for example, they take you to the police, you know, you go to the gender-based desk, and you are supposed to, you know, write a statement and tell them that, okay, you've been raped. So when you do that, the policeman doesn't have the money, doesn't have the fund to go for investigation, for instance. Do you understand? So that is where these organizations come into play, because there is no funding, so to speak, for our police force to actually go about to investigate for you. And even when they investigate, there are so many times where they don't even follow through. They don't even, you know, properly leave these things to the appropriate authorities to take charge. And also our justice system, you can have a rape case in court for years and years without, you know, it being, you know, really dealt with. So the whole conversation with hashtag justice for Uwa, justice for Barakat has brought a lot of, you know, awareness when it comes to the impunity that women and girls have been facing. You know, we have even the Boko Haram bandits, for instance, when they go into a village to cause havoc, they rape women and girls. So it's not only family members or, you know, religious people that rape. We have our, you know, law enforcement agencies also carrying out this impunity on a daily basis. So this activism, you know, by different organizations talking about all of this has brought, you know, a lot of attention into our system, where now, just yesterday, the Governors Forum has declared a state of emergency. So right now we are actually clamoring as well for the sexual harassment bill to be passed. It was read the second time, but it needs to go through the third reading so that it will be passed. Also, we are also calling on, different states that have not upheld the Child Rights Act to, as a matter of immediate effect, to start implementing it. So those are, some of the issues that we are presently having, Monica. I hope I was able to answer your question. Okay, let me check if we have any other question. I think Maria, I can see your hand up. Please, you can unmute yourself. Hi, Maria.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I just wanted to compliment the words of my friend Monica.
Yeah.
I'm from Colombia also, and I just wanted to share with you the law that is applying in this country, and that I think it's applying in almost every country in the world, with gender politics to fight this impunity, right? Because with sexual crimes, it's very hard the criminal, because well, in law we have this principle that is, you have to assume the other person is innocent until you prove the contrary, right? I mean, this is what happens with almost every crime. But with sexual assault or rape, it's very hard to get this proof, because there's almost in every case there are no witnesses, because enough physical signs in the victim body, and because also it can happen that the person only says that she's been raped or he's been raped years after the sexual crime, right? Because not every person is capable of telling what's happened to him or her right after this after the fact. So this makes it very hard to process this kind of people, and this is why impunity is so high. Some kind of politics to precisely try to fight this kind of circumstances. So, for example, women victims are most of times interrogated by a psychologist or therapist who can try to dialogue with her or him and try to establish what happened, so they can make a case and try to bring it to the court. Because in other cases, which are not sex crimes, every time what has happened to her or him, and this kind of re-victimizes the victim. I mean, it makes it worse for her or him in sexual crimes, or at least that's how laws see these cases. So this is why it is almost with the therapist or the psychologist that makes the interrogation, because the lawyer from the person who's been accused could also interrogate the victim, and this could be very harmful for her, because some lawyers are very hard on their So I just wanted to explain why this crime is so hard to really get justice, and also try to not finish or to not end this principle that I told you about, of you have to assume the other person is innocent, because if even almost every person who says that's being violated or raped, this is true, there is also other people who, if we we advantage of that and use this kind of how do you say then? Yeah, sorry, this kind of crimes to attack another person without a motive, right? And I would also like to talk about the reasons why people, both men and women, commit rape.
Okay.
Because all the reasons you spoke about are very true, but I think that we all can resume those reasons in lack of sexual empowerment and basically lack of self-love, because if you love yourself, there's no reason you would like to take a thing from another person, especially something so important and so valuable as someone's intimacy and someone's sexuality, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, maybe we can't heal or change a rapist, but we can prevent newborns from becoming rapists, right?
Yes.
We need to continue, or we need. I mean, sex cannot still be a taboo. I mean, it has to be something that's speaking about, and it's not only for preventing pregnancy or from preventing diseases. It's really sexual empowerment and the importance of recognizing that this is a human need that we all have and that we all have to accept. Because when you repress something, this kind of diseases appear or explode in people's minds. So I think this part is also,
Yes.
and that was all I just want to talk to you about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria. I totally agree with you. We need to continue to have these conversations for people to know that you don't have to repress, your natural urges, and you have to also, as much as possible, educate yourself. I don't think I have any other question. Please, if you have any question or if you want to say anything, you could just unmute yourself. I'll give a few minutes for that. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So I'm just going to wait a little bit for people to ask questions. If you want to say anything, please unmute yourself. Okay, while we wait for further questions, I want to quickly tell you that this webinar is brought to you by Ladies of Liberty Alliance, and for short, we are called LOLA, and LOLA is a non-profit organization with a mission to educate and empower female leaders within the liberty movement. And the core principles or what we preach is libertarianism, which is a political philosophy that takes individual liberty to be the primary political value. And libertarianism seeks to define and justify the legitimate powers of government in terms of, certain natural or God-given individual rights. And, these rights include the right to life, the right to liberty, private property, freedom of speech and association, freedom of worship, government by consent, equality under the law, and moral autonomy. So for us, the purpose of government, according to Liberal, is to protect these and other individual rights. I beg your pardon. LOLA, therefore, joins other organizations and the Nigerian people to lend its voice against gender violence in Nigeria. We have been doing a lot of sensitization, joining with the hashtag of OWA, lending our voice to the current, pandemic in Nigeria. For more information information, you can definitely check www.ladiesofliberty.org to know more about LOLA's activities globally. And also, if you have more inquiries, you can, contact LOLA Nigeria at gmail.com. Please don't let this, conversation end here. If you are in Nigeria and in every other place in Africa, you can, continue to help us lend your voice to the hashtag, sexual harassment bill, so that it will be passed and, read for the third time, and, we can move a step closer. There are still so many rights, to fight for. So one step at a time, please lend your voice. And like I said, there are different organizations to contact for immediate response to sexual assault. One of them is Mirabel Center. We also have, the Stand Against Rape initiative. You can check them out online. We also have Hands Off initiative. We also have Women at Risk International Foundation. And we also have Wine and Wine Nigeria. I'm going to, copy this and paste in the chat box so that if you are in Nigeria, you can, reach out to these people. Okay, so I just, posted that. I think we've done justice to all the questions. If we don't have any other question, I think this is where we say thank you very much for everyone that, attended and actively participated in this. Thank you so much, Tope, for participating. Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. You guys can unmute yourself now. Thank you so much for participating. Also, I think Savannah shared something on the chat box as well. If you want to, reach out to her for a support group, which, we really don't have in Africa, you can reach out to Savannah and she will connect you with the support group on Facebook. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's been a good section.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm quiet in the video, but this is really a nice and informative session. This is Shakira speaking, by the way. Yes, this is a nice and informative session. And I believe that a lot of us have like different expertise in what we're doing. And as a psychologist, I believe that you have definitely broken it down into like simple ways that we can help support each other. And I wanted to ask you a particular question.
Okay.
I know that I am an educator, I'm a teacher,
Yes.
and I work with children in 0 to 5.
Yes.
I know that I've heard about sex education for young children, and I know that we have to start from the beginning, right? We have to begin to educate our children about sex and what is going on around them. So for me, I've begun to do that, and I'm beginning to do that through my platform. However, I want to hear more on what are the things that we can start inputting in what we are talking about to our children and our families. Like, I know that you have to take care of your child. You have to monitor your child. Yes. You have to tell them, talk about all of their body parts, tell them the private and the public parts. But we have a system in Nigeria, not even in Nigeria alone, but as well all over the world, globally, that doesn't work for us.
Yes.
And as a community, we need to start standing up for each other. We need to start speaking against rape and speaking against all of these injustice going around. So I am asking you now, as you were a psychologist and I am an early childhood educator, how do you think I can begin to advocate for our children? How do you think I can begin to advocate and talk more about, supporting our children and families? Do you hear me?
Papa, did you get
Yes, I got
you.
Okay.
Yes, I got the question. Okay, so there's an African saying that says that it takes a village to raise a child. So I think that is the concept we are going to with. Everybody's hands must be on deck. Like you rightly said, from the educationists, the teachers, the parents, the psychologists. When Maria was saying something about sexual empowerment and lack of self-love, there's nothing we can do so much about the person who's already a rapist. But there is a lot we can do about the children coming up so that none of them becomes a rapist. And everybody has to work together. Now, we don't form the policies. The government, they have their agencies that set up all those policies. But in our own little domain as an educationist, you might want to just inculcate some programs into your school curriculum that does not go away from the government's curriculum. Find a way to fine-tune it, and then maybe character building. There's something in my daughter's school, something about character building or something. They make it like a co-curricular activity, and have time like that to talk to the children about some of these sensitive things and begin to work on their psyche from a very young age so that as they grow, one of the scriptures says, train the child the way it should go so that when he grows, he will not depart from it. That is it. I think that's how it is, all hands on deck, really, because we are talking about human life and human beings. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate your answer. Thank you. We just have to put our hands together, and like you said, it takes a village. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I think I muted myself. I said thank you so much, everyone. If anyone still has a question, you can unmute yourself and proceed with your question. Hi, Patricia. Were you about to ask a question?
Hi, Abisola. Hi, everyone. No, I was not asking a question. I'll just say hi and say bye.
Hi and bye. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much. Deumi, I can see you. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, Francios. Thank you so much, Temitope. Thank you so much, Maria, for tuning in from Colombia. Thank you so much, Lily Agbola, Linda Oluwatui. Thank you so much, Funke Williams. Thank you so much, Lizzie. Thank you so much, Mr. Shakira. Timothy, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you. It's bye from here. We don't have any more questions. Thank you so much. See you someone.
Somebody has a question.
Really? Okay.
Somebody has a question. I can see somebody in blue. She raised up her hand. Infinite at 7.
Okay.
She has a question. She's raising up her hand.
Okay. It's just a contribution.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. It has been a good session. This is just a contribution that since 80% of the rapists are from the most trusted people like families, nephews, uncles. So what do you think we can do on this aspect? Because there is no way, we have to visit people, our relatives have to come to us. So in this aspect, what do we think you can do? Pastors, even some people, even their fathers. So what do you think we can do in this aspect?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is that question, Bisola, am I answering that question?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay, so first things first, protect your child. Equip your child with everything they need to know about protecting themselves. Now, secondly, it is a societal problem, like you mentioned, nephews, uncles, pastors, everything. So I believe the society needs a reorientation or let me use my word, a revamping of our values and our customs. You know, we need to gradually move away from the male-dominated society and everybody comes to realize that we are all equal. The woman is equal to you. She's not beneath you. You are not above her. And she's not something to be objectified. She's not a property, you know. But then, how do we do that? It starts from the way each and every one of us is bringing up our child. And that is why avenues like this is very useful. And we can never have enough of such meetings and such advocacies. And we need to go out into the world and spread the gospel, so to speak. But then we start from ourselves. We start from home first. I think that's what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Deumi, I hope she was able to answer your question.